my time working in finance, there's been a huge change. So when I started, there were no qualifications. The only qualification I actually have is the membership of the stock exchange exams from the 1980s. And since then, there's been a complete revolution in the need to educate people in finance so that they are qualified to give advice, qualified to manage money. And that's as a basic, but that's a bare minimum. Beyond that, a lot of my colleagues have now taken CFA exams as well. So the level of education has risen hugely in investment management since I started in 1980. So is it a profession or is it a trade? Maybe that's the question. I think there is a difference between finance and engineering, for example. Because in engineering you're solving specific problems, you're building a bridge that doesn't fall down. In finance, I think one of the issues with that is that it continually changes. It is simply a creature of the world in which we live. It's a combination of all the people in the world, all 7 billion of us. It's a combination of all the companies that are existing today and are being formed as we speak. That makes it very difficult to model it, very difficult to create one specific set of rules that works, and therefore it's a much looser association than a specific profession like medicine or engineering. There's been a big change in terms of attitude to ethical investment, and I think could be driven by education. I think it is being driven by education at all levels. But also it's being driven by information that is freely available to people now that wasn't in the past through the internet. And so we can invest and be aware of companies that have sustainable or ethical policies, which we can favour, and that's one area. But I think what is interesting at the moment is that, or it's been a steady progression over the last few years, is that companies have worked out that it's sensible to be sustainable because it's better for the bottom line, because they're not wasting resources, so that's a good thing. And it's also better to behave in an ethical way, because if they cut costs and cut corners in an unethical way and they are found out, and because of the internet they will be, then they're damaging their brand, the consumers who might buy their products turn away from them. So there is self-interest involved in behaving properly. I think there's evidence that a qualification allows anyone who doesn't come from the most obvious cohort of candidates for a job to break through that glass ceiling. And that's the same in the professions, whether it's medicine, accountancy. It's the same in investment. If you are qualified, then that gives you advantages. And if you have other disadvantages, then it helps overcome those disadvantages.